Well, it was either this or the latest Thor movie. For the record, I did enjoy Ragnarok, it was undeniably a lot of fun to watch. However, it felt more like a Guardians of the Galaxy film than it did compared to the tone we are used to from an Avenger-related installment. The 80s cheese was overbearing at times. There was so much more comedy in this one than what we are used to from this series. It was occasionally distracting and did no favours for the pacing or the narrative. As awesome as the action was, I expected more from the fight between the Hulk and Fenris. The CGI at times was ugly as fuck, and I'm not a fan of Thor's new appearance and the destruction of his hammer. Despite these negative critiques I have of Ragnarok, Marvel's reputation of being able to throw out high-quality superhero movies consistently isn't damaged at all. Overall, it's a good movie. Hemsworth is on form, and the rest of the roster also bring their A-game. There are fun cameo appearances, and it was nice seeing two Lord of the Rings cast members share the screen together, but the MVP definitely goes to Jeff Goldblum for reasons that will be very plausible if you see the movie. With that said, I chose the Justice League over Ragnarok because as an observer of the film industry, I find DC's incompetence to be more interesting than Marvel's reliability. Side note, I still can't fathom why the fuck Jared Leto and Jesse Eisenberg were even allowed to audition for their parts, let alone be selected for them. When I'm watching a Marvel movie, it gives me the impression that it was made with a borderline psychotic amount of care and attention. Nothing is perfect, of course there are mistakes, but when compared to DC's rectum-ruining, arsehole-splitting colossal mega shits, they look eerily flawless. Yes, I described Wonder Woman as good enough, but DC had already set the bar so low that even hurling shit at the screen as I sit there wondering why the fuck I even bothered to shave for this would have been a dramatic improvement. A shit ton of years ago, Earth was in the process of being invaded by Steppenwolf, this twat not the band, and his army. To accomplish this, he was using the Unity, the name given to the merging of three Tessera mother boxes, oops my mistake, which are basically designed to turn any planet into a shithole. Before he manages to turn Earth into his own personal nirvana, an alliance of Amazonians, Atlanteans and humans prevented this by forcing Steppenwolf, this twat not the band, to retreat. The mother boxes were then separated and left in the custody of the respective races. Cut to some time after Dawn of Justice and the world is still in mourning over the death of Superman. The collective depression, vulnerability and lack of hero triggers the mother boxes to be reawoken and summon Steppenwolf, this twat not the band, back to Earth to retrieve them for round 2. Bruce Wayne and Diana Prince get wind of this and go in search for other superheroes to help them stop Steppenwolf from reacquiring the mother boxes to do the same thing to the world that cocaine and a bathtub did to Whitney Houston. Predictably, everyone is sizing this up to the first Avengers movie. Not necessarily an obtuse comparison, they definitely share similar attributes, but I found that plot-wise it has more in common with The Lord of the Rings. Hear me out. A brick shithouse in ridiculous armour accompanied by thoughtless minions is trying to take over regular/Middle Earth respectively by ways of a powerful magical device. He is prevented by other races of said world and now many years later returns seeking the device so they can use it to have another go. A group of temperamental allies, or fellowship if you will, team up to prevent their world from looking like it was recently penetrated by the planetary equivalent of a jackhammer that spent the last 666 days marinated in chlamydia and being set on fire. The similarities end there. Since I'm the sort of person who would rather chug a barrel of cyanide instead of being slowly drip-fed it over an unnecessary amount of time only to achieve the same result, I went into Justice League with the misguided hope that it would be a legitimately good film that fucks up royally at some point, ruining the rest of it because at least I'd get to enjoy 99% of the movie before the inevitable happens. But no, DC couldn't even do me that fucking favour. During the entire duration it felt like I was hooked up to the aforementioned drip feed whilst having urethritis-filled piss sprayed all over me. Originally the Justice League was meant to clock in at just under 3 hours and you can really fucking tell. I don't know if it's down to a drawn out narrative, this was initially going to be a two-parter, or perhaps it was edited by ways of circular saw. Either way it feels like the wrong sections have been given the chop. Climaxes have been taken out yet their build-ups remain. Conclusions to scenes that haven't had a chance to establish themselves or even be featured at all are scattered throughout, which made the film appear lazy and amateurish. Obviously I haven't seen the severed footage at time of writing. If my morbid curiosity summons enough strength I'll have a gander, but there's no way in fuck this process was done efficiently. Narratively speaking it was a fucking mess, and potentially awesome action scenes were sacrificed in the name of them posing long enough for some twat to screenshot it then spread it on a canvas in the name of them using it as their own personal drip tray. Unfortunately this isn't the only issue regarding post-production. Director Zack Snyder had to leave the project after filming due to personal issues, so in comes Joss Whedon, notably known for his work on many Marvel movies and Buffy too I suppose, to helm post-production duties. Several rewrites, reshoots and $25 million, which equals to Cloverfield's entire budget, added to the original filming costs later, we have a concoction of Schneider's usual modus operandi and Whedon's obsession with attacking a film reel with a box of Crayolas. Separately they work, but when amalgamated together it results in the Justice League appearing so visually and tonally schizophrenic that I expected it to drop the whole superhero movie thing and focus purely on the underground fighting business. I still maintain that Ben Affleck is a good Batman, and an even better Bruce Wayne. Despite clearly enjoying this role more than he did in Batman vs Superman, Affleck looked like he was scanning for anything anything resembling an exit. So once they're done filming, he can leave abruptly to think of a reason to continue looking like a roided up sex doll has been nailed to a portaloo that appears to have been vandalised by an army of airbrushes with itchy trigger fingers. Oh, and thrown a cape on it too, I guess. Gal Gadot's consistency remains intact. However, my critique from her solo movie also left this film unscathed. Determining whether she is a good actress or not will have to wait for a time when she takes up a role outside of this character. Reason being is that despite spending 100 uninterrupted years away from Themyscira, Wonder Woman doesn't appear to have evolved emotionally. I gave her the benefit of the doubt last time because the Amazonians as a whole are quite monotone when it comes to expression. Of course, this quality wouldn't wear off after a small amount of time away from home. It's not like you'd spend a long weekend in Scotland only to return to your abode with an accent that sounds like two velociraptors and the most out-of-tune instrument in existence having a barbaric amount of sex in a skip filled with empty booze bottles and used syringes. But surely after 100 years she would have adopted some of humanity's traits. I'm not asking for a dramatic change of lifestyle, but would it have killed DC if they were to have Wonder Woman partake in some binge drinking, casual drug abuse and unplanned pregnancies in the name of realism? Cyborg is easily the most forgettable member of the Justice League. There's no substance to the character, he's just a jock made out of CGI that really dipped in and out of quality. Seriously, at times it was that bad, especially on his face, that I thought it was doing a throwback to the fucking Mummy Returns. The Flash is a millennial prick who is fun at first but will start to irritate you eventually and is barely tolerable on a second viewing. I did notice that his lightning bolts are blue in this movie, but in other media they're yellow. That probably pisses some people off, but it bothered me about as much as DC bothered to inject Aquaman with a personality. Considering Jason Momoa looks like he was built out of sex appeal by a team of Italian sculptures, he doesn't have any screen presence. Like literally none whatsoever. I had no idea that Aquaman's superpowers gave him aspect of the chameleon, because he had the ability to blend seamlessly into the background only to be registered when he utters another worn out surfer douchebag one-liner. I have hope that DC is saving the potentially deep and plentiful lore that would accompany the Atlanteans for the Aquaman solo movie. There's a background story here that's begging to be explored more than your dad's rectum after the day he was feeling adventurous with your baby monitor. Superman? Oh come on, no spoiler warning needed surely, because not only has Henry Cavill been credited in everything to do with this movie since announcement, but he has also posted several videos on social media of him covered in baby oil and lifting things under a Justice League hashtag, so Superman's presence in this movie wasn't exactly left for speculation. The process of resurrection happens roughly halfway through the movie and it's fucking ridiculous. They basically decide to use the mother box in the inactive Kryptonian ship from Batman vs Superman as a defibrillator by ways of the Flash's lightning bolts to literally jumpstart Superman back to life because potential Mythbusters special. Cue the inevitable scuff tiffle, that's not a word, between him and the Justice League, which is predictably halted by Clark Kent's feedback. They both fuck off only for Superman to return in the concluding moments of the final act to save the day by finally aiding the Justice League to beat Steppenwolf. More on that twat, not the band, later. Cavill's performance ironically is more lifeless outside of the coffin. There's just nothing there apart from bland insipidity. And what the fuck was with his face at several random points? I suppose if you didn't know this going in, you may not have noticed, but during those reshoots I mentioned earlier, Cavill had to film them while sporting a mustache due to contractual obligations with another movie. So the visuals effects team had to pixelate the fuck out of it and you could really tell at times. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate the effort, but overall I wasn't impressed. Whoa, it's actually weird saying that instead of hearing it. Steppenwolf, this twat not the band, last time I swear, is quite easily one of the most forgettable superhero villains in the history of everything, to the point that on occasion I completely forgot he was in the movie at all. When he is on screen there is no presence, impact or action that's noteworthy. He and his army of parademons, which are so bland that when it came to draw them I just tinkered with my Yellow Jacket animation because fuck it, are comprised entirely of CGI, which means wait, why the fuck did he need to be CGI? There's nothing intricate or special about him, he's just a big dude in armor. Justice League's budget was higher than the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy combined and is considerably younger than Peter Jackson's adaptations. The technological side of filmmaking has advanced dramatically since the Lord of the Rings, yet in comparison this feels like a giant step back. Give anyone from Weta Workshop a sheet of metal and a miniature hammer to insert in their Jap sign, they'll literally bash out better armor design before the end of this review. The natural comparison to Steppenwolf, this twat not the band, I was lying earlier by the way, is Ultron, who for the record is so much more three-dimensional than the antagonist in this movie. Both are the bad guy that's betwixt between character introductions and the bigger picture, i.e. Thanos and Darkseid, meaning that during the action scenes, which to Justice League's credit are well executed, it didn't feel like anything was at stake and there was little suspense because DC isn't exactly going to kill off one of its flagship characters anytime soon. His sole purpose was to be their piñata until they find harmony and move on to what I hope is a significantly improved sequel, with this guy at best being remembered as a glorified bridge. Steppenwolf, pah, more like Steppenstone. Oh my god, I'm so fucking funny. Post-credit scenes are present in this movie. One occurs midway through, it's light-hearted and means practically nothing. The second one appears at the concluding moments of the film reel and in my eyes isn't worth sitting through the names of all the people responsible for this bouquet of bullshit. Anyone else sick of post-credit scenes? They were fun at first, but now I feel like they're a dramatic piss take, especially since the level of quality has dropped significantly since they hit the screen millions of years ago. And they're drilled into us so much to the point where I found myself waiting for a post-credit scene to appear at the end of Suburbicon. Fucking Suburbicon. The Justice League hasn't worsened DC's reputation in the film industry that's already hit rock bottom, thank you, Batman vs Superman. Overall it's on par with Suicide Squad, but in terms of the whole Marvel vs DC thing, as far as live action is concerned, the competition is more one-sided than a duel between me and a restraining order issued by Karen Fukuhara.